One else ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the December 10th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Jack Cheney?
Yes.
Gilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Ryan Fritz?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Jared Ashby?
Present.
All right, tonight's Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag will be led by the Monterey Elementary students. Please come on up.
All right, we're going to introduce ourselves real quick, starting with
Ava Alvarado, kindergarten. I am Kason Ross, and I'm on kindergarten. I am Carletta Sanchez, and I'm in first grade. I'm Ezekiel Daddy, and I'm first grade.
These are kindergarten, so they're different grades. Good job.
I'm Nehemiah Lucero, and I'm in first grade.
Good job.
Second grade. I'm Bentley McLean, and I'm in third grade. I'm Diego Gomez in fourth grade. I'm Aliana Contreras, and I'm in fifth grade.
Good job. Good job. Let me see your shirt. What is this?
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Great job.
All right, are there any modifications to the agenda tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, for our December bars, we need to remove those from tonight's agenda, if we can, please.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with change?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Ashby, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Do we have any recognition tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, at this time, I'm going to ask that the members of the state champion, no, let me backtrack, the first state championship Goddard High School band, if they could please come up right now so that we can recognize them. Ms. Bush, you look official. Are you the spokesperson for tonight?
I figure so.
Okay, well, let's go.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ellie Burris, and I'm the saxophone section leader and currently a senior at the Goddard High School Marching Band.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Moore. I'm the color guard captain, and I'm a part of the Goddard Marching Band.
We want to thank you for recognizing us today at this board meeting. We have gone through 3 different competitions and assessments and received multiple awards this year. Our first competition was Pageant of the Bands, where we won Outstanding Drum Major, Outstanding Color Guard, Outstanding Woodwinds, People's Choice Award, Outstanding Percussion, and first place in our class. At the Tournament Bands competition, we received Outstanding Music and first place in our class. Finally, at the first ever NMAA state competition, we received Best Music, Best Color Guard, and Best Percussion, and first in our class. We placed first and became the first state champs ever for marching band in A to 4A. This year has been extraordinary, and on behalf of all members of Goddard High School Band, we would want to thank you and appreciate you for your continued support for our passion and our extracurricular.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay.
Well done.
So, started right here, come on around. So we get a handshake real quick from everybody?
We have questions.
Hey, who is y'all's band director?
We have multiple.
Okay.
Kevin Everett's our main one. Miss
Congratulations.
Whitney
Thank you.
Bain
We're
is
honored to
his
celebrate you
assistant.
guys. Looking forward
We
to
have
next
James
year.
Dixon and Dr. Joseph Flores.
So don't leave just yet.
There's quite a few that help the band.
Okay. That, you know,
Honored to celebrate you today. Look forward to next year. Honored to celebrate you. You did a great job. Honored to celebrate your success. It's an honor to celebrate you. Honored to celebrate your success. It's an honor to celebrate you.
no trumpets.
Kevin's a trumpet player, and no trumpet players show up tonight?
So, Mr. President, members of the board, I know Mr. Everett is, I want to say we're at winter concert, or we've got, right, and he kind of gave me a heads up on that. I know we're right at, I think if I remember correctly, like 60-something people strong in our band, and it took a lot of people to pull this off. They listed a few people, Ms. Bain, Mr. Everett, numerous sets of parents, no different than any of the work that's gone on at all of our schools, but a neat thing to win the very first one of these. We're super excited about that. I know Mrs. Sanchez, I apologize.
No.
You wanted to, I thought you wanted to say something.
No, I kind of told them individually how
Awesome.
we were honored to celebrate their
Oh, heck yeah.
success.
Well, that's, now you've got to win them all. I mean, you won the first one, and it's easy peasy from here. You got the first one over, just get the rest of them, so.
Well, and on behalf of the kids, the parents, the boosters, we'd also like to thank you, like Kelly said, for your support. We know that you guys worked hard to give us more funding and things like that this year. And please know it went to, well, state champion. So, but we wanted to say thank you for that as well, because we know that you guys worked hard to make that happen. And so thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to inquiries and general comments. Did anyone sign up to speak tonight?
No, sir, we have anyone.
All right, then we'll move on. Next, we have our informational items.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, we have a few items for tonight's informational section of our meeting. First and foremost, just a quick reminder with our Power School. So our primary operating system for our district is Power School. All of our grades, et cetera, are in Power School. So in front of you or behind you, I just wanted to remind people as a parent, and that is our district homepage right there. If you scroll down to the part that says Parent Portal, and a quick click right there will take you to our Power School menu. Notice that on this particular place, it's in English and in Spanish. And I did click both of them earlier. Everything's working accurately as far as I'm a parent, I'm a grandparent, I'm an aunt, I'm an uncle. I've got kids right now in the district. It'll walk you through. The biggest thing is that you're going to need a code from the school. But once you get all of that, there is a language choice. If you need it in a different language, you can get that taken care of. And if you're running a browser, and let's say maybe you're in the area for a job, for a reassignment, and you speak a language that is not English or Spanish. Obviously within your browser, that ability to change and go back and forth is there as well. One of the things that I'm going to reemphasize with our principals tomorrow at our admin meeting is that not everybody may have the technology. You know, I mentioned a minute ago that we've got grandparents and aunts and uncles and different things like that. And a lot of times we assume that everybody has a smartphone, but that we also have the ability, that old-fashioned, you're free to go to the school, you're free to call the school. Our information comes out in robocalls as well. And we do ask that our parents give phone numbers, you know, whenever they register their kiddos. A lot of times what happens is we'll change cell phone companies, or we'll have, you know, this number it's a burner phone, and we get another one or a new one, and now we're 3 phones from that last phone number being accurate. But what I would request too is if a parent that might not have the technology goes into a school and request their student information, and they run into any kind of trouble, if they would call our office, because there shouldn't be any trouble with getting grades the old-fashioned way. It might not be the preferred method. However, it is still something that we pride ourselves on, that we're going to make sure that if you want to know your kid's stuff, then we'll make sure that you get it. So just wanted a quick refresher when it comes to Power School. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
Would you by any chance have the percentage of number of parents and students that are actually are using it, are using the Power?
That are actively using the parent portal or the student portal?
Yes.
I don't have that right off the top of my head, but I can for sure get that.
I'm sorry.
My apologies. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I can for sure get that. We can look that up with Ms. Morgan.
So what is the district doing as our outreach and engagement to get the parents to actually get that code and be able to read their kids' grades or assignments? I think that's what some parents are not, they don't have.
Got it. So on the bottom of all of our report cards, there is a little blurb, and it reminds them that if they want to stay more connected with their students' grades, that they're free to contact the school so that they can get the code. I know at the beginning of the year, the teachers all send out a deal, whether that be a paper copy. You know, we still rely heavily on the paper copies, especially at the beginning of the year. As we come back in January, we can kind of investigate that. As far as, you know, just because we've come back, a lot of times what happens is, you know, you'll get a new phone or something over Christmas, and I don't have my code. Just a reminder, as we start January, that if that's you need to be in contact with us. Robocalls, we can make sure that those go. We could actually do a district robocall as well. We've had to guard pretty heavily against, well, let's put it on the website. Well, that's fine and dandy if you're on the web. But we also have tried to make sure that we're trying to hit our parents and our population that might not as well. We know our parent-teacher conferences, our percentages were very high, especially at our elementary schools when it came to that. So I do know for a fact that at those that they remind and refresh that with the parents, like, hey, if you're not on, we can help you get there. Here's the code. Let's walk you through that kind of a deal. But there really shouldn't be a reason why they're not receiving any type of information. And if they're running into problems, please, by all means, give us a holler.
And do we have a lot of students that don't have a password, or they forget their passwords?
They
And that's why
might.
they can't get into the system?
What I found will happen is even happened in my own house. We were in once, and everything was great. And then for whatever reason, like I said, and it was, for us, it was a new device. And then what we'll find is the kids won't, they just, for whatever reason, won't go back in to go get them. But it's there. We're not it's not a you got it one time and we're never going to give it to you again kind of a thing. So it could happen, but it would be not because of something that we didn't do, I would say.
So when the teachers add grades is it on Power School also, or is it a different grading system?
The grades?
The grades.
They're there, yes, ma'am.
And so they're able to insert any statements about their students' conduct,
It can be there.
their assignments that are not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So like when you log into the parent portal, you can click on the assignment, click on the teacher, you can directly email the teacher in that particular setup. You can also, if they have a 0, and sometimes the teacher will write comments like, this is exempt from the final, or this is the 3rd time they took it, that kind of a deal. So there's a lot of information in there. I mean, obviously, we would encourage people to take advantage of the technology that's there. But again, for those that can't, we still want to make sure that we're providing them the information that they need.
So the teachers are able to write statements in, just the 9 weeks or any time during
Any
the
grade.
semester?
Any grade.
Any grade.
Any grade, grade level.
Anything in that grade
Any,
book,
any specific assignments?
Okay.
they have an opportunity to write any kind of a comment in there. And then I know several of the schools now have shifted into a different, an additional, I won't say different, but an additional platform that will, if you sign up for it, it will notify you. Goddard piloted that a few years ago. It's an ICU, and Dr. Cottrell has done that example. Now, again, that's great if you have the technology. But as far as our primary operating system, it's PowerSchool, and that's where all their grades are housed. Any information they need, they can click a link and they can direct email to the teacher in there. It's extremely user-friendly.
So the teachers are also required to put information for the ICU?
Those that have it, for it to work correctly, they're having to enter those things into those platforms as well. Yes, ma'am.
Is that like additional extra work for them, or
It would be a
is that
second.
a new requirement that they?
It would be a school thing. That would be a second set of keystrokes. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see like a video tutorial, demonstrating how to use this app, maybe during the PTOs or parent conferences or at the schools.
The PowerSchool or the ICU?
The PowerSchool,
Oh, okay.
the app.
Okay.
A couple of the schools have already done that. And the problem is you don't get a whole lot of parent participation that show up. Because I saw it firsthand when, I believe it was Roswell High that
Okay.
had a day where they invited the parents and
Mr. Braggs, is that still behind that one, the PowerSchool deal? If we could you go to the PowerSchool instructions, please? Either one of those two. That'd be fine. So first and foremost, yes, we can always, have our meetings and try to bring our parents in. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It's also on our web. And it walks them through, kind of step by step. Now, navigating the site after you're in there, we've actually made some modifications where we run into, or used to run into some problems was, I have 2 kids. I have one at school X and one at school Z, and trying to merge those two, but I think they've got that problem solved as well. And then as a parent, kind of bouncing back and forth between the 2 schools. So you bet, actually, we can pull that off. If you'd like that at the January meeting, we can sure do that and kind of tie it with, it's a new calendar year. If you've lost it or you've got a new device or something like that, please make sure that it's there and that you're going through it. But absolutely, we can do that.
So if a parent has several kids at different schools, do they have a different code or password, or would it be the same for all of their kids? No? Like for the parent to be actually get into the system to see their kids' grades?
I'm gonna say I don't know, just because I don't, but I'm gonna defer to maybe Mr. Edwards that has had kids at different sites.
you have to, they're
Individually?
2
Yeah.
different passwords?
2 different numbers.
Okay. So, and we
Each
can.
kid has their own identification number. So,
Got it.
Interesting.
Sure.
Couple questions. Does PowerSchool allow for an application, or is it simply web-based?
There's an app.
There is an app, so parents can download it on the phone and.
Yes.
Again.
They have
so-
to do that first, right?
Well, you can log on to the internet and you can get the site, but the app is the more preferred method. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then within the application, they don't have the ability to manage multiple kids. You have to actually
can.
put in, you can do it?
You can.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do on that one is I'll have a demonstration, and what we'll do is, since it's being videoed, since our board meeting is recorded, what we'll do is we'll then post that section of the meeting to our website so that people can have access to that, so that they can do that as well.
And then, just one or two more questions, and excuse me for my ignorance. Do we have, or does the school district have a PAO, or a public affairs officer, or any content creators for like social media?
We have an individual that I guess I would consider that. We have Jerry Holm. Jerry has been in charge of posting our videos, getting things up to the website. But as far as the, I would say like a PAO, we do not have a specific person for that, no.
Do you think, in just, socializing this, do you think that would be a good idea for like the Power School to push that information on social media apps, and maybe even like a little tutorial?
We can.
Like a 1-2 minute tutorial
we can.
to parents how? Just thoughts.
I don't think that's a bad idea. Now, I will say,
And our schools to repost it onto their sites. as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Now,
right.
Because each school manages their own.
You bet. The tricky thing for me is, and this is kind of where I'm glad we're having the discussion, because I wasn't real sure where we were looking with this. For my people that have the technology access that might just need a quick tutorial on how to do it, that'll be great.
Yeah.
But for my parents that don't have it, it's futile, but
Sure.
I like the idea of going at it to say, hey, a reminder, remember, and oh, by the way, if you have multiples, this is how you do it. So more like I know Mr. Holmes and I were talking, instead of the lengthier professional, more looking videos, like a quick hitters, 30 seconds.
That's right.
Almost like a TikTok
That's right.
kind of a deal. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, get the information in, get it out. We'll work on that and see if we can't have that for our January board meeting.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
Is there a way to provide a contact information for technical support for the parents? Or is it?
One Power School does have technical support
Okay.
listed on their deal too. But the thing I would always suggest is, if they're having trouble, contact their schools.
Okay.
Because a lot of times our secretaries can troubleshoot that. And if they can't, then they generate an IT ticket over here. If we're having some type of a systematic problem, we've got some of the best people in the world that work on that. So, good questions. Okay, now I feel better. Now I'm more in tune with what we're after, so
Yeah.
you bet. Any other questions?
We've got some of the best people in the world, right, Royce? Yeah.
Yes, we do. All right, second item on the informational items is entitled End of Year Strategies. So you may or may not remember, Mr. President, members of the board, when we were discussing in late June, or at our June, July board meetings, we were talking about some of the barriers that we were running into with what I would call traditional summer school. And that the funding source had been eliminated, where we were doing our 60-day summer schools across the district. And, as our years have hit since COVID, we've scaled back and scaled back and scaled back what we're looking for with our summer school, to the point that we had roughly 3 weeks last year, 3 weeks, and we didn't feel like we were getting the bang for the buck with what we were looking to try to put out there. So, we're December board meeting right now, posting out for our public right now. We are not looking at what I would call, air quotes, summer school for our elementary schools. We will have our credit recovery for our mid-school and our high school. That won't change. But what we will be looking at is some more specialized things for our elementary schools. I have Ms. Steinhardt here to kind of give some really cool news that she got today. Ms. Cole is also ready to kind of dive in here to talk about some of the things that we've talked about. One of our plans is, with the money that had been set aside, that we would like to maybe look at some reading interventionalists that will work the whole year, instead of just trying to do some things in the 3 weeks in summer school. The biggest thing that I'd like to get out for the parents is that it's not going to look like what it was, and it might not be at every school. So as far as being able to go across the district and it's at every school, we're going to take advantage of any of the programs. Remember, we have a 60-day legislative session. And we've already started hearing different things that may or may not be coming out of that. But as far as, your plans, if you need to make different arrangements because you've counted on a 3-week program at a particular school, that may or may not be there this year. So we're trying to give everybody the opportunity to know it's coming. So, Ms. Cole, do you want to expand a little bit on some of the work that we've talked about?
Yes, Superintendent Luck, members of the board. Actually, I would like for Mrs. Steinhardt to come up and talk about it because she really did so much work when PED released the literacy funding, and so they were building it as they went, we were building it as we went. She threatened some things during that time because it was a lot of work for her, and so, but it was a lot of learning, and so we're really excited to have the opportunity this summer, so.
Okay. President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, and members of the board, we did participate in the Summer Literacy Institute, and what that is it's a governor initiative, legislatively funded $30 million for last summer. It was not all expended, so since we are still in the same fiscal year, then a June program for summer literacy could be in place. This information is just now dropping, but the model is that we would train a teacher, an EA, or even in some cases a member of the community if we have need. They are actually hired from PED. They have a 1-to-4 student ratio to provide reading tutoring. So the way our model works is they actually get 8 kids, and they're there for 4 hours, and they would work directly with one group of 4, and then another group of 4 while the other group is working on some independent activities. Last year we had 4 sites that did participate in that. We opened it up across the district, and we did provide transportation. We had 1 middle school site that served students incoming kinder through outgoing 8th grade. So, and we used a program called Reading Horizons. The teachers loved it. And some of the data that's coming back, there is a data piece to it that they use Dibbles to do a pre-program, post-program. And what they found is rather than having a 20% summer literacy slide that most students who didn't participate in experienced over the summer, they actually made some gains in their reading and started the year off ahead. Looking forward, we do have the money available from PED for a 4-week program and in June, and then depending on how the legislative session turns out this spring, we could maybe even go into July and August if necessary. So that's how we ran it last year, and it seemed to work really good. They're actually hired through PED. We're just providing the transportation, and they reimburse us for that, and the building and the site supervision and the teachers. Turned out really well. Any questions?
I just wanted to ask you, so how is the district going to support the teacher professional development over the summer? Do you have a lot of plans for that?
I don't have plans in place right at the moment for the summer professional development. We do have our new teacher orientation program. We do have, we have the opportunity, the summer conferences, AVID, literacy conferences. The last couple of years when I've actually hired somebody to come in and provide training in the summer, we haven't had a great response from teachers. Like either they wanted to teach summer school instead or they were already on vacations. I think we are leveraging that time right before school a lot better than on the tail end of the summer school when everybody's tired. We do have our curriculum documents aligned and our pacing guides and things like that that are on our elementary team site. So this next year with a science adoption, we will have some need to train across the district. And when it's a little bit of a hit and miss and who can, then I'm bringing in people multiple times. But absolutely, we will need to get on the ground some professional development with the next gen standards and if we adopt a new program.
Mrs. Sanchez, Mr. President, members of the board, if I may on that one, what I have found is if we have people that have requested a particular topic, whether that be something here in Roswell, we have not limited, hey, I found a conference in such and I'd like to go. In fact, it's kind of just the opposite. I mean, they've come in and they're really excited about this or this or this. So I mean, if we're if we're hearing maybe that this particular genre is not being served, I'd love to be able to help them out. So, you know, I mean, we spent a lot of time and a lot of their time into prepping these things. So, yeah, if that's not the vibe out there, I'd kind of like to know what they're looking for, please.
Any others? Yes, sir.
You mentioned 4 sites for the reading. What were those sites?
We had Missouri Avenue, Del Norte, Mesa, and Monterey were the 4 sites. And then but we also provided transportation from the other locations to the central location.
And this was a reading program?
Yes.
And you said you saw some improvement, correct?
Yeah, well, so the data went directly to PED because they are the ones that were in charge of it. But what they are saying is that they saw statewide a 20% decline. This is in the letter that they sent out.
Okay.
And, but that the students who actually participated and attended regularly in the summer literacy program actually started the year for almost 5 percentage points higher than the students who didn't participate because there was a decline.
So are we able to track the improvements in our district on the improvement, or did we not track it?
So we didn't track it. All of that data ended up going to PED. What it would take is for our tutors because they're using the paper pencil.
I like that.
Dibbles. And so you can't just automatically download the reports that we're able to get through the M class, which has a robust reporting suite. So that's all it would take is just an additional step for the tutors that are hired to actually provide us with their spreadsheets, beginning of program, end of program, and then we could see. But it's going to take a lot more statistical analysis to then extrapolate the students who didn't participate or those who only came a few times and things like that to really demonstrate what the gain is.
Okay.
Any others?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And again, just to reiterate, our high schools will still have the recovery processes available. So as far as like any type of a graduation issue that we see, none of that's going to change. So, all right. Any other questions on that one? All right. Third item on the agenda, the 25-26 potential budget preparations. So I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Sexton. I know before I turn it over real quick, we've started our process of visiting with our departments as far as budget potentials going forward. Do you what's your need, what's your want, what's your desire? What are you running at right now? We're halfway through, give or take a fiscal year with our money for this year's kids. Are we expending it in a timely fashion so that we can make sure that, obviously we have enough, but at the same time, that's this tax dollar for this year's kids, and we're making sure that we're going through all that too. So, Mr. Sexton?
Yeah, President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board, it still is early. We just surpassed our 80th day, and we're funded based on the average of the 80th and 120th. So, we're still, kind of in the preliminary stages, but we are thinking the budget process is always ongoing. We're always addressing needs as needed. So, legislative session hasn't started. That'll start next month, and then we'll kind of have a little more clarity once it gets in process.
And I don't know, members of the board, Mr. President, I know yesterday there was a story about the LFC and projections. I was able to pay attention to a little bit of it. I have a superintendent's meeting Friday at the state school board's conference, and that's one of the things that I have listed is like, okay, what came out of that? I know they're under some new management, but I know we'll kind of get a general idea. One of our standard talking points is that we're always looking to plan for it to not be what it has been. So as far as when we're looking at positions, when we're looking at our funding, making sure that it's solid, and also making sure that that we're going to be able to withstand whenever kind of the bottom drops out, for lack of a better word. So that's always something that's discussed whenever we're working on that. So Yes, ma'am.
I know we had talked about the financial transparency, and you have your financial information reports that if the public would show up for these meetings, you would be able to share a lot of information with the parents.
Right.
But is there a way maybe we can improve that? Because he said we're looking at very few people actually showing up for those meetings.
We could sure look at a way to maybe we'll do our best. I will say that, as far as making sure that we're staying current with our obligations. We're not trying to hide anything.
No, of course not.
So, no, I know, I will say it today. It's December 10th.
Yeah.
We have our budget meeting at the end where we bring our public in and our parents. They're invited right now to that whenever those meetings occur. So, yes, sir.
As far as like when we have those budget committee meetings, I know in the past, as board members, we've been able to bring people, or hey, how would you like to be on the budget committee? When Mr. Cheney was there, I know I brought 4 or 5 people. You have your administrators meeting tomorrow with your principals.
Yes, sir.
I think it would behoove us to make sure that the principals are included, because I hear a lot of the concerns coming from different schools. Hey, we didn't get this, we didn't get this, we didn't get this. And from what I've viewed is, don't complain if you don't show up. And I'm sorry, that's just my own deal. If they have concerns,
Okay.
It used to be principals. You were a principal once, Brian.
Yes, sir.
And I wasn't real happy with the attendance of the principals, administrative staff. I think it was year before last when Mr. Cheney was on there. Heck, I went out and got 5, 6 people, and those people showed up and they had some good questions. When you're talking about the transparency, I think that's one way to be transparent. Each principal needs to get some of the people in their schools, parents, they know their parents, and have those people say, hey, look, if you'd like to have some say-so, show up to those meetings and understand what's going on with the budget. Because a lot of stuff that's out there is, hey, this school got this school got this. Well, understand how the process works.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I did reach out to the principals, assistant principals, SUPs, in April, asking for volunteers and so.
I'll have some people at the next one, but it shouldn't be on us to bring those people, because you might invite the principals, and I'm not indicting you, I'm saying you invite them, they don't show up. And that's one of the things that that's part of the attendance. Some of our principals are parents as well. And they have kids in the district. They need to be here. And I'm not slinging mud at the principals, but I'm just saying in general, if you want transparency, hey, show up.
Yes, sir. I've got that down for my meeting tomorrow. Any other questions? All right. Parkview 3Y update. So had a really neat meeting the other day with the early childhood group from Santa Fe, ECD. Roswell is the first school in the state that is going to get to pilot a typically developing 3-year-old program. So traditionally, the only way that you could go to Parkview as a 3-year-old is that you had to be in the special ed program. We have been granted an opportunity to bring in students that are not on an IEP to be in class with them so that we can start the full inclusion model at 3 years old. It's a limited number. We've hired off the grant, not out of operational, but off the grant, we've been able to hire some additional staff for Ms. Ortega and her crew over at Parkview. There was an email that went out to her staff today. Be on the lookout for the form as to how could you sign up to get your 3-year-old over to Parkview. If there's a bad thing right now, we're still working with our transportation as far as that goes. So for the here and the now, you know, if you're 3 after September 1st, so a special ed student that's 3 whenever, they can walk in the very next day. But for our traditionally developing students, we're 3 at September 1st, and we'll get that out and we'll get that off the ground. I know there's a lot of interest at the state level as to how that's going to look. Dr. Cage, our new superintendent, our deputy superintendent for special education, that is her mindset, is full inclusion. So excited about that. A lot of work. Mr. Sexton, Ms. Ortega, Ms. Gibson, Ms. Cole's crew has been a heavy lift. We've been trying to get this thing off the ground since last July. And we think we finally got it so that we can be able to actually pull this off and get it running early January. Really excited about this one.
So you mentioned hiring staff, so what is the staff to child ratio? And what is the group size for this particular group?
I want to say like 1 to 8-ish. If you haven't ever spent any time at Parkview, it is a special monster. There are kids and EAs everywhere. The building itself is we're one of the few districts that have a building specifically modified for the littles. One of the biggest challenges for us is that our EAs are going to have to go to school. So our 3Y EAs and our 4Y EAs are all going to have to pick up some college classes. There's some money available for that. We're like I said, it's a neat thing for the town. Really excited about it.
So what opportunities are available for children with the special needs?
So that's been there.
It's
So
been
if
there
you've
because
been.
that's what they
Yes,
concentrate
ma'am.
on.
So Child Find, did I get that right, Ms. Cole? Child Find? We've identified, generally they hit the door for Parkview, they've got their IEP in place.
Okay.
And that this is for students that, so at the 4Y level, you didn't have to qualify under SPED. But so we've lowered the number that we're taking just because we need to get the program off the ground. But again, pretty excited about it.
Yeah, so Mr. Luck, if I might, just to explain, so birth to 3 years old, right, when students are identified as having a disability, so through Los Pasitos or Mecca or those places, they receive services. Once they turn 3, then school districts are required federally to provide those services for the students. And so at 4Y, a few years ago, we expanded our 4Y. So you have your students with disabilities, 3 years old, and they move into pre-K. And so we received funding to have a typically developing model. So you have a percentage of students on IEPs, and you have a larger percentage of students who are typically developing, because we know that the research tells us that the students on IEPs will learn better when they're in that model that's full inclusion with their typically developing peers. And so we received that funding and expanded our pre-K program significantly. We have 450 spaces available in Roswell, and so now what's happening is Roswell's been selected because of the great job that we do with early childhood to expand that model with 3Ys through this pilot program. So we're adding those typically developing peers with the 3-year-olds.
So what do you do, Mrs. Cole, in that program to ensure there's a smooth transition from pre-K or kindergarten?
That's a great question, because we don't have pre-Ks at all of our neighborhood sites, right? The big one is at Parkview, but we have several that have, and so we've been working on that process. You know, sometimes just that change of environment from one school to another, from this group of adults that we're used to being with in the classroom into a new group of adults, you know, that makes it difficult. But Sally and Danielle work really well, I think, with the principals to help that. And we know it's an ongoing process, and not all kids who come to us in kindergarten have attended our pre-K.
Right. Well, Mrs. Sanchez, Mr. President, if I may, that's actually an interesting question, because coming from the secondary level where I had no experience with any of this, boy, Mrs. Green has given me a crash course, and I mean, sometimes it's been a crash to get some of this across. But So our 4Ys that live in the district that does have a program at their school, they go there. Well, I don't want them there. They did so good at Parkview, I want them back at Parkview. Yep. We don't have the space at Parkview for everybody. We have to send you to your neighborhood school first. So in the fall, that may be something that you hear as a board member. But I know there are exit meetings that they have for the kids that do qualify for that. I know our schools, like through our kindergarten roundup, they've done a ton of work to try to get those kiddos acclimated to the best of their ability. But I think Ms. Cole is spot on, just because they were here or here doesn't mean that it's going to be just a smooth transition. We've had a lot of conversation around our kindergartners this year. Some good, some even better. I'll go that direction with you. But that's one of our focal points is, okay, what's going on here as far as our behaviors with our kinders and our teachers? They're seeing a lot of things that they've never seen before. So as we've done our campus visits, I think we met, I know Mr. Cheney and I, that was like my second one that I did that. I've done every kindergarten classroom minus maybe 3 buildings on purpose because I want to see what they're dealing with. And we've got some ideas, we've got some things that we're looking at. But that's very interesting that you asked that question. So I just please keep in mind that that's a pretty good sized focal point for us right now. Those
So
kinders.
does the program that we're getting ready to have in these schools, are they gonna have the support for those children's social emotional development? Because we know when they go into kinder, we're having all those issues. So are we providing them with some kind of a social emotional development?
I'm not even going to look at Ms. Cole.
No, because I know.
No, I'm just kidding. There's always room for improvement in what we've done. I do think that the kiddos coming into our program where we at least are having to try some different things versus they're out somewhere where maybe they're not even getting any types of support. Obviously, I know Ms. Cole, Mrs. Price, a huge point of emphasis is to work so that we're trying to catch that
At an early
before it
stage.
happens,
Yeah.
before it
Before they
progresses.
go to kinder.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Always room for improvement, I will say that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did get a question, my next item up here on our homeschool enrollment. Some of the data that was provided the other day, so I did get a quick update. So as of December the 2nd, from Ms. Morgan, who monitors all of this, we have 16 students that are out for homeschool that have a verified PED homeschool ID number for us. Now,
16?
16 total that have given us a number. Okay. That being said, we also had 38 students that had said they were doing homeschool and have not provided us a number. So as a parent comes in and they wish to drop their student, we say, what are you going to do with your student so that we can track them better so that you don't count against our graduation rate? I'm going to homeschool. Okay, a homeschool PED ID will eliminate them from our database as far as that goes. So of that number that has come in, 16 of them have actually provided us with a certified number, and the other 38 have not. So,
And that's in all of Roswell.
yes, sir.
So I was at a homeschool meeting with my wife and others like 2 weeks ago, and there was probably 70 or 80 kids that were homeschooled that
Yes.
were there at the
Okay.
outdoor function.
PED.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
PED
Yeah.
generated numbers. So there are
Yeah.
several other different types of homeschools that they could attend. But a PED number is one that I can actually cross that kiddo off of my list. So I have other kids that are enrolled in different programs.
Right.
But a certified PED program, I have 16. And I'm not speaking ill of the ones that are in the other programs. Please don't hear me say that.
No.
Yeah, it's the rules that the state has given me to play by, so.
16.
So can we come up with some kind of incentives to bring some of those kids back to our school, to our public school?
I think we are, and I say, I'll answer your question with yes. And the biggest incentive for me is doing a better job. And not saying that we're doing a poor job, it's just we can do better in certain areas, and that I think that might bring some of our families back. We've looked at some of our key areas. They don't like and I hate to use the word, but a lot of them are not happy they may be picked on and being bullied at school. Perhaps maybe some of them don't feel like the curriculum's moving fast enough. Maybe it's moving too fast. We do have, people that are monitoring, like, why are we leaving? That was my comment the other day, being a sore loser, I don't want to see them leave. Ironically, I had 3 vendors contact me on Monday with, Mr. Luck's comment about being a sore loser. Well, I've got the fix. And I was like, how'd you find that out? Were you one of the people watching the meeting? So, I think some of our hot points at our lower levels, because that's where we see the majority of our homeschool kiddos, is, what is it about elementary schools or this particular school that they feel like they would be better here? And we're always monitoring that. So we're working on that too.
What services do we provide for homeschooling? Do you have free tutoring, or do you have gifted and talented programs that they can attend? No, not at all?
No, and I say that not, and this sounds horrible, and I'm being transparent, but once we're done receiving the funding for them.
I was gonna say no money.
And that, now then, some of our SPED students, I think they vacate that as well, don't they, Jim? For, like, if they go to homeschool? They do?
We're required to provide services
Okay.
through ITEA.
Okay.
So even, if they're in a daycare, right, like a 3-way in a daycare, then we provide those.
Services like speech or OT and all that?
The same with our private schools.
Okay. So we don't offer them like music or part of the arts program? That's not included? Okay.
We have had some at the high school level that have participated in our activities. We've had kids in ag. We've had some kids that have played in sports. NMAA allows homeschool students to participate in their home zone only. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head that did that. Nothing recently, but we've had that happen a couple different times. So like the band too, we try really hard. We've got a couple different opportunities for our kiddos with like the SAT, where they'll come up and ask if they could participate, some of the other testing, AP, some of those types of things they've asked, and we've allowed that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And proposed leave, next item on the agenda. So at last board meeting, I was asked a question about a quote-unquote maternity-type leave / policy. So I did a little digging and found out, I asked one of our finance ladies that deals with that to give me like what's a ballpark average, because, and granted, our teachers are at different levels of pay for their years of experience, et cetera. So she gave me what we would say is an average individual on a 12-week out 60 days for having a baby. $16,780 was docked on this particular individual's pay because they ran out of sick leave. So I also did a little bit of work and found out that last year we had 18 individuals that were out for having a child. And on this particular data search, these were only women. We didn't do any spouses on this particular one. Did the math, and at $16,780.64, that would come to a total of $302,051. At our current state right now, we have 6. So if I use that same dollar amount, you're looking somewhere around $101,000 for right now, as far as people that, the dollar amount that's being docked for that. Did do a little bit of research as well. Traditionally, that is a union, that's either negotiated for or against, and I don't think I can in the 4.5 years that I've been here-ish, that has never come up during union negotiations. So, as far as just some basic information, I told you that I'd get that for you. Don't know that I have an answer to a lot of questions, but I do stand for questions on that one.
Brian, are there any districts in the state of New Mexico that offer new mothers or new parents any type of leave?
Not that I'm aware of, not any public schools that I'm aware of. Again, I'll see my 65 closest friends here on Friday, and I can ask them if any of them do. You bet you, absolutely.
Appreciate it, and thank you for pulling those numbers.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions on that one? Okay. And then I think the construction update, I don't want to say no news is good news, but it is. We've got pipes going into the ground. They're digging our trenches over at Nancy Lopez. I did have a quick conversation with Mr. Sanchez today, although they were able to be on site the day after the flood at Nancy Lopez. That did have a little bit of a hindrance with some of the other work that they were working on doing. Everything at this point in time is well within our guidelines for Nancy Lopez. I did get a quick update on the land donation for Mountain View. Everything on our part has been taken care of. Or we are waiting on our very gracious private landowner and their stuff that they need to get taken care of. And then as soon as that comes forward, our title company is ready to act so that we can bring it before the board. We were able to start visiting with the state, my apologies, with the county as far as how that could change roads in that particular area, and that as we're progressing further and further, we can actually start having that conversation with the county as far as, hey, how can we assist? How can you help? So it's moving along with no delays as well. So I don't think that some of the concerns about that we would be missing something because it's taking too long, we're well within our guidelines on that. PSFA, out of Santa Fe, all of our stuff is right in compliance where we need to be. So our central office remodel, visited with one of the technicians the other day that's helping to balance our heating and cooling system. Went into that part of the building this morning when it was nice and chilly outside, and the hallways were just as nice. And they weren't overbearing, like in the good old days where it's 200 degrees next to the heater and you go into the bathroom and it's freezing cold. So really excited about getting that done. And then, down the road, always looking at things on the horizon. So project coming up after Mountain View would be Washington Avenue, and just kind of looking at some of the things going on with those. So stand for any questions on construction updates.
What is the predicted enrollment capacity for the new Nancy Lopez?
300 students.
How much?
300.
Do you see the districts moving and getting maybe some other students from other areas going in that direction?
We have some options that we're probably going to need to start looking at on a little more serious level. It's I don't want to say a domino effect, but I did bring up Washington Avenue a little bit, and as soon as I say that, all my Washington Avenue people, okay, don't do that, okay? But we do have a few ideas that we've got some companies that are doing some really serious research and getting me like specific addresses and student age kiddos. Like when we did with the board realignment with Dr. Collinwood, it's a different company, but it's a lot the same, where we can actually bring you solid facts and then allow the board to help make the decisions that are duly your decisions to make.
So what is the predicted enrollment for Mountain View? Do you know? For the new building? Because what do we have, like 400 students over there?
It's based, it would be, that one would be based off of
Design
total.
capacity, or are you asking?
I would think that would be total
The building,
enrollment
how
where they're
many
at.
is it gonna be able to hold? What's
It
the
will,
design
yes ma'am,
capacity?
yes ma'am.
How many is Mountain View designed for?
Yeah.
Were we allotted?
After it's built?
If you'll give me a second, I can tell you what they've
No,
got
but
right
we can
now,
do it
and it
later.
would be pretty close to what they've got right now.
Okay.
So we're not anticipating any type of change
Okay.
there, because that, I don't believe there's any type of different predictions with that one. So the fact is their enrollment has actually increased over the last few years.
And then on the plans that we discussed, that like learning spaces, additional learning spaces like for STEM, do we have all that in place, or I don't remember?
To the best of my knowledge, nothing has changed. I don't think they've had any
Because we
addition.
have the science area and the band and the orchestra, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever was in the plans.
None of that changes?
None of that's changed,
Okay.
no, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're talking about looking at numbers for Nancy Lopez, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you're looking at the numbers for Nancy Lopez, what is that gonna do for Mesa? Because when you're talking about taking Third, Fourth, Fifth Street,
Right.
moving those kids back where they shouldn't have never been moved out of. And so are those kids then gonna be, it's gonna affect a few other schools on this side of town.
Yes, sir.
Especially when you have a lot of our kids that live on Third, Fourth, and Fifth that are now going out to Berendo Middle School.
So that kind of goes back to why we want to make sure that when we present our information to the board, that all of our ducks are in a row, so that I can provide. So it has the potential, yes. There have been some preliminary numbers kicked out. I would not feel real comfortable
Disclose.
sharing them yet, just because that immediately becomes the gospel. And we're not quite to that point yet. We do know that we have some more capacity at Mesa, where we could withstand some more students there. Berendo could either fluctuate either way. Sierra is relatively full as far as their numbers. At the current time, just because I move a elementary school, we wouldn't necessarily have to move a mid-school, because those boundaries may approach a little different. But again, we haven't really got a really strong hold on the numbers. It's a decent grasp that says, hey, we really want to take a deeper dive into this one, because I think it's a solution that would be really good.
But we also don't want to overcomplicate it.
That's correct.
Because I'm gonna tell you, just talking to people in the community, and I know some other board members have had some discussions with people in the community. When the time comes for Nancy Lopez, you said 300, what are they at right now?
180.
Okay, so you're talking about 120 kids.
If you're going to fill it, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, and that's when we have gone back and forth with the state. What our assurances with them is that we're looking at measures to make sure that we put the students in the building for the size that they're going to build.
Okay.
So, but again, that will come before y'all as well. So, and I could envision that as more of a board retreat, which again is open to the public, but that would be probably sole item on the agenda for that particular board retreat. Okay. Good questions.
Anything that the board can do, that the board's not doing, to advance some of these projects? There's nothing
No, sir, I think at this time, and I don't want to say at the mercy.
specifically with like land donation?
No, I think right now, our best bet with that one is let that process play itself through.
Okay.
And then we should be able to proceed well ahead of schedule, or even on schedule with that project.
Good deal.
Okay. That was my last item for the information. There you go.
All right. Then let's move on to our approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the November 12th, 2024 regular meeting and the November 13th, 2024 special board meeting.
Any discussion?
No.
Can I get approval?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. French,
Second.
second made by Mr. Ashby. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. All right, up to consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda to include approved November bills and authorize December bills.
Any discussion? Questions, items?
Nope.
All right, Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. French, second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. We're gonna move on to our agenda, our action items. First up, we have donation to the University High School Cal Ripken Senior Foundation and Partners.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, as Ms. Hall is coming up here to talk about this, I recommend approval of the donation to University High School, Cal Ripken Senior Foundation and Partners. And as she's getting ready to speak, just a reminder, we have a very good partnership with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation in our elementary schools and one mid-school. So, Ms. Hall?
Good evening, President Cheney, Superintendent-elect, member of the board. We met with Devon Energy earlier, well, at the end of last year, and talked about different things that they could do for our schools, University High School and Early College High School. And one of the options that they gave us was a STEM lab to put into University High School that would be available for both schools. And I'm very excited about the prospect of this. Generally, they do these for middle schools, but I've got teachers who are really excited at the opportunity to upgrade those lessons to high school level. And also, since University High School is a community school, we're excited to have this lab because we can open it up to our close by neighbors, our Mountain View Middle, Sunset Elementary, EGP, for different activities and maybe some summer things for our kiddos.
I did notice that the guides are all middle school, so they're gonna the teachers are gonna work on.
Yes, so Mr. Kirk, who teaches science at Early College High School, and Mr. Cook, who teaches science at University High School, are really anxious or excited to be able to take some of those labs that are geared towards middle schools and then bring them up to grade level for our students.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So, second.
Motion approved by Mr. Edwards and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the 2025-2026 RISD calendar, second reading.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, this will be our second reading for the 2025-2026 RSD calendar, and I recommend approval of that.
Go ahead.
Has there been any? Okay. Has there been any pushback on the calendar?
Not one bit. It has been eerily quiet to me. So if anything has been said your ways, I am all ears. Like I said, I have, we talked about it, we put it out to the staff, we had the vote. I've been out multiple times, plenty of times, and I have not had one comment other until today, where I did have a secondary teacher kind of jokingly say, "Are you going to approve that calendar tonight?" And I said, "Well, that's the plan." That's all I've got.
So can you tell us, or the community, what are the benefits of starting the new school year earlier?
So again, just a reminder that with us receiving the extra funding,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that with us receiving the additional funding from the PED,
Okay.
that we've got to get in our time, and that's why for us to receive the additional 2.5 give or take million, that we have to maintain the days. And then when we tried, not last year but the year before, to actually back off of our days, we weren't allowed to do that. So again, we're building a calendar based off of the parameters that we had for this year, which was the 188 for the kids and 193 for the staff. 194, pardon me, for the staff.
So,
And Memorial Day's at the end, so that Memorial Weekend kind of plays in a factor on, like, do you start a little earlier so you could be out before Memorial Day weekend? Do you start into August or, on the 4th or something of August and then go after Memorial Day weekend? So that played a factor too.
So and if I may, Mrs. Sanchez, members of the board, one of the requisitions for the calendar actually had us in class July 31st. And I thought that might be a bit early. So I did pull rank at that particular point in time and say, we're going to start here. We're going to build your calendar out of that one. So that's actually a little bit later than what had even been suggested by the calendar committee. A reminder, calendar committee probably had about 30 people, made up of secondary, elementary, mid-school people, principals. They did not cast the deciding vote. The vote went out to the entire staff. So, and it was if I remember correctly, it was like a 67-30 vote that this was the calendar that was voted on by the staff.
So the calendar we're looking at doesn't show us the graduating dates?
That would be the Memorial Day weekend. We would still hit our goal of graduating at Memorial Day.
Okay. And teachers come back on the 28th?
The Tuesday.
For staff development?
That one, my apologies, I haven't looked at it in a couple days.
That's what I'm reading.
Oh, yeah, just a second. Let me make sure that I won't speak.
Professional development.
The professional development at the end is the day we gave them to complete all their training for their videos.
Yeah, paid day.
Oh, I see.
A paid day.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, well, but they actually have the kids back this year. So this year, we were able to actually put that into the week after Memorial Day for our staff this year. So coming up next year, okay, I'll get the right date here just a second. We would actually be going to school on the 26th and the 27th, with the 29th being the professional development. So we would have the kids back. That was the 2 days. It's either the 2 days over Thanksgiving, or you're gonna give those, if you want the full week, then you're gonna have to come back.
Come back.
We've got to get those 2 days somewhere.
And they come back on what, on the 27th?
It'd be Tuesday, the 26th,
The 26th?
and the last day of school will be May the 27th.
So what kind of support do you give our teachers in preparation for that early start date?
Well, actually, it's going
It's
to be a
just-
little later than we start a few days later than we did this year.
Okay.
We have tried really hard to tie the last in-service with a weekend. So as far as we have, we were talking the other day with the flood, we kind of felt like we hit a gold mine this year with the activities that we had at the Civic Center. And we were super ready to replicate that next year. So ready to pivot a little bit and figure out how we can make that work at a different venue. But one of the biggest things that we were, didn't get to accomplish this year that we will next year for this calendar is that we'll have our 3 professional development days, and then they have a full weekend. Yes, we are starting on a Monday. However, we had 2 additional days right there for new staff, for veteran staff, for coaches that have been running like crazy to try to get some stuff done so that they can, make sure that all of their stuff is ready to go for that date. Our NTO program is second to none as far as in the state goes. So they actually have a few additional days. Those are the ones that are listed in blue. They're on the calendar, that light blue for the 25th, 28th, and 29th. For those teachers that are brand new to our district. So they're really going to get a full week's worth of preparatory stuff for us.
I forgot my question.
So, any other questions?
That's it.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. French,
I'll second.
second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next up, we have the first reading of policy J45 JJIE, drug use in school activities, random drug and alcohol testing.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I have Mr. Trujillo, Mika Trujillo, who's Assistant Athletic Director for the district. Mr. Cooper is at a Roswell-Levington game right now, but as you can see here, the items listed in red, when we had a situation occur there in the fall where there was a lot of assumed, and I go back to policy 5130, There were a lot of things that were listed in 5130 that didn't quite make it into the new state board policies that are here. So we had added, in addition, for basically things that occur to our student athletes if they are involved with any type of basically a party or in possession of alcohol or drugs or paraphernalia at any time during the school year. And then we define what the school year is. School year interpreted as the first day of fall practice through the last day of school. The term construction is defined as being in the company of or any person who is on the sale, distribution, transportation, use, or possession of alcohol or illegal drugs or paraphernalia. What we were trying to do is clean up the policy a little bit. We had a really solid, iron-tight for our drug test. But we felt like we didn't have it solid enough for unfortunately, students that make mistakes. And again, this is meant as a deterrent. Yes, there's a consequence to it. We don't look at it as a punishment. I know if your kiddo gets caught with this, there's really no other way to look at it than that. But our hope is that it's seen as the deterrent that I play a spring sport or I wrestle and something happens in the fall, but because I'm not currently wrestling or it's not wrestling season, I receive no consequence. Meanwhile, the other athletes that are in season, it's, potentially a season-ending consequence for them. So this shores it up, and it ties in nicely with the drug and alcohol policy that we already have. But again, we're not looking at going out and trying to create ways to get our kids. We're simply saying, when I asked, I think I even asked Mr. French, tell me what you think happens when a kid does this. Well, this is what they get. And then we went to find that. We found a lot of older language that didn't, like I said, it didn't necessarily make it across. So we just want to make sure that it was clear, and that's what this is. And as this is the first reading, any types of changes or anything like that, Mr. Mott is ready to take those notes, and we can take that back to policy committee. Mrs. Sanchez, Mr. French, I'll turn it over and defer to you guys on this.
How are the kids selected? And who does the selecting for the kids
Randomly?
for the random?
Okay, so that is a different, so I can answer the question.
Well, I'm just asking because it's written in on here.
So, and it is computer generated straight random. We have no idea who the kids are till the company brings it to us and says, these are the kids.
So is it possible for a student to be tested 3 times? Just by the selection of the
It's
random?
possible for them to be drawn randomly at that particular case. Generally, what we don't, if they've tested once, we would generally say another. So like our larger sports, that is less likely to happen because of the percentage. Mr. Trio, if you could, the percentage of our student athletes per team that gets tested?
President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board, 10% is what we take out of the high schools, 5% is what we take out of the middle schools. We use C&J here in town. It is a random process. We get the rosters from every program. We submit to them, they put in their system, and they roll it out back to us. Now, to answer your question, yes, it is a possibility for somebody to get pulled multiple times because they might be a multiple sport athlete.
I see.
Most of the time,
Okay.
we don't run into an issue where we'll get somebody in the fall twice or 3 times, whatever the case may be. We test once a month, so it is possible. So if you have someone that's a fall sport athlete, they could get pulled.
In the spring.
And it depends on the numbers, as Mr. Luck said. Football, you look at the numbers between both programs, you're dealing in the hundreds. I think Goddard at 120, Roswell High at 160, so 10% of those numbers is gonna be a lot higher. Then you move into basketball, you move into wrestling, cheer, dance, everything all the way across the board. And then the middle schools, again, it's 5%.
So if they play 2 sports, it's a possibility that they're.
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
get tested.
Even 3 sports, they could get drawn. But what we try to do when we get a situation like that is if we see that where it's happening multiple times, we'll go back through and we'll check that after they send it to us. And if it's somebody that looks like it's already been tested, we'll usually kick that back and we'll ask them to go ahead and just random select again.
What
Yes, sir.
drugs are they tested for?
The main drug is THC, but it will also pick up methamphetamines. It has a list of 4 or 5 different ones, but the main one is THC.
So when a how are the schools selected also? So like today, y'all were doing them at Roswell High.
Yes, sir.
Did y'all do any other schools besides Roswell High today?
Roswell High and Goddard both.
Okay, that's.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you do the middle schools, is it done the same way? Mountain
What we
View,
try to,
Sierra?
what we try to do is generally, and it depends, right now, the owner of the company is going through some medical issues, so what we'll usually do is if we do a Goddard, then we'll hit Berendo and Mesa. And then the next day, we'll go to Roswell High School, and then we'll hit Mountain View and Sierra. So today, we were able to get both high schools because of the people they had. They had 2 people that were able to work today. Tomorrow, it's only gonna be 1, so I'll hit all 4 middle schools tomorrow.
And then the list, who is that list sent to? Because you said it's confidential, right?
The rosters?
Yeah, the rosters of the kids to be pulled. Who gets that when
To the company.
the company
To C&J, to the,
creates the list? Who is it then sent to?
then they hand walk it back to our athletic office, and then Britt and I sit down with them and we go through that list.
And if a kid doesn't show up, what happens then?
If they're absent, for example, we had 2 absent at both high schools today.
Right.
We'll go back tomorrow.
Oh, and you'll test that kid?
Yes, sir.
Ooh. Interesting. All right.
Word travels fast sometimes.
And that's why I'm asking who gets the test. I know,
We're the ones that get it, but you know how fast social media is. If we show up to a high school and they know that they're getting pulled, that I'm sure starts.
but they
hitting the ground
shouldn't
fast.
know that they're getting pulled.
They won't know that they're getting pulled. They'll get pulled, and then their phones will get taken. They'll get taken up to the front office area, and then we handle it from there.
Okay.
And it's all the total student population?
Yes, ma'am.
randomly, Okay.
Of athletes.
Of that sport,
Athletes,
of that
Yes.
sport, right,
I'm sorry?
of that sport. It's not the whole school, it's
Not the
just,
whole student
it's just,
body.
it's
It's
just the
The
athletes.
sports.
Like right now, we're in the winter sports, so it's gonna be your basketball boys and girls, it's gonna be your wrestling boys and girls. And then, of course, because cheer and dance still fall into that cycle, they fall into that as well.
How often do we have, not the random, but like under suspicion? Is under suspicion like they're on the premises, or is under suspicion like, hey, Ryan French had a party at his house this last weekend? Like, we pull Ryan French and be like, hey, you're gonna do
So-
a drug and alcohol test because you had a livid party.
That's a good question.
So to answer that, Mr. French, we don't usually go based on that. That's gonna be something that's totally separate from us. If an administrator has a situation in their building, they can request if it's a student athlete on a next random draw. But we don't just go in and drug test anybody just for any reason. It's gotta be
Right.
during our drug testing. Now, what you're talking about is, I think, something that Mr. Luck was referring to in the fall. There was
Right.
a house party, and there were multiple student athletes there. The problem is we operate off of the reports. If we receive names, we're able to investigate. We can't go off of assumptions.
So, Mr. French, if I may, Principal X, Y, or Z suspects something's going on, without any type of a reasonable suspicion, you don't have a smell, you don't have an odor, you're not acting funny, we do not test at that. We have to have some other type of lead into that as a student, because again, we're student athletes, so we're always a student first. So given the indication if there's a smell, if there's an odor, if there's a peculiar behavior, no different than with any other student, then that particular situation could occur. But just because I think, I've heard, we don't pull them in and test on the spot for that. We've had to be really careful. We've had a lot of districts that have actually modeled what they're doing after us. They like it. Again, and I can assure you, as a group, our heart breaks whenever we get the positives. That is the last thing we're looking for. And we want to be proven wrong whenever those things come out. Everybody's negative. Yes. Not, dang, we didn't get anybody. That's our goal is that it's a deterrent. And even if it is just for a short period of time, maybe when that kiddo's playing sports, again, we'll take whatever we can get to try to help them to do better. Yes, sir.
Quick question. Somebody's got to poke the bear. Just because we discussed this 6 months ago, how ethical is it to drug test our kids when our teachers are not drug tested? When we talk about equity, and that is so, talk about equity or a lack of equity, to me that's unethical. Testing the kids when there's no testing of the teachers.
So for the sake of good discussion,
Yes.
Okay. I would advise too, we're not testing all of our kids.
Sure.
These are also our extracurricular athletes that we use that as a privilege. I have shared the question with not just our legal counsel, but I've also shared it at the state level with different people that's saying, okay, what are you doing in your districts? And I've not yet come up with a district that does that. So
Understood, although this is bothersome. So if a student smokes marijuana and say test hot, so they're out of sports, there's no impact. If a teacher does it in caught, and here's why I think that we don't do it. If a teacher is caught, we lose federal funding. So I believe, as a school district, talking to some attorneys, that we have to have a drug policy. So since like marijuana, for instance, is still federally illegal, we take federal dollars. So we cannot, nor can any employee in the school district utilize marijuana, although it's legal state-wise. So I think as a policy, probably a lot of New Mexico schools steer clear of drug testing, because if they test positive, there's teachers, then federal grants can be pulled from the district. But I still think it's unethical. If we're teaching that, if we're doing it to the students, the teachers should be subject to the same.
So this is gonna sound like the world's greatest sidestep at, hang on, I wanna get the right time here on our video. No, and I don't mean it as such. As a duly elected 5-member board, as far as the direction that you guys choose to go, you set policy, and I follow the policies that y'all set.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
respectfully.
But you have something in place if, let's say, a teacher was noticed that they were, you know,
We have-
drinking or smelled.
I was getting ready to ask you,
Yes.
Mr. Ashby. So when you're talking about drug testing, you're talking about the random drug testing as opposed to any drug testing, is that correct? Or were you talking about any drug testing?
So this came up about 6 months ago. So I actually, initially it came up in conversation when I found out the teachers that are hired on the RISD do not have to submit to a drug test. That's initially how it came up. So then I asked if it was random or if the school district suspected, and my understanding, and maybe I have it wrong, was that at no time are teachers tested, even if it's suspected that they're
No.
smoking marijuana.
They are
But maybe I have it
They're
wrong.
tested,
They
they're
are.
removed.
There's a couple that I've
good.
personally taken.
Oh,
tested.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's,
then I misunderstood.
well, and
Good.
it would be no different if we felt like they were intoxicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and we have had several situations, unfortunately, more than we would like.
Sure,
And there is a process for that, but as far as just a random
sure.
across the board test, no, we don't do that.
But if it's suspected, then you
Yes, sir.
can
Yes, sir.
administratively.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
good.
An odor, a smell, a slurred speech, staggered steps, those are all, and that one gets extremely,
Sure.
that one gets very, very specific. We go get them, you're with us, we don't let them drive, you know, and then we move forward from there.
And also, just to interject
Please.
with that, with the CBA, with the CWA, if anybody's involved in an accident, at that point, that triggers an automatic drug test. So if they happen to hit another vehicle, that person has to go with me,
Offense, pull.
down to C&J and go ahead and take that drug test.
That's great.
And that's in policy.
Okay, good.
And I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it publicly, and a refusal to take the test?
Refusal to take the test is the same thing as a positive result.
Great. Good, good. Thank you.
Any other
And just to
questions?
add to his, that's the same thing with the athletics as well. If it's a refusal, it's the same as a positive or tampering.
Okay.
And I agree with it. This is great. I misunderstood. I thought that no teachers were subject to drug test ever, so my apologies.
That's
Good.
So if a STEM member is at an activity outside of town or in Albuquerque, wherever, and they were suspected of either drinking or whatever, who takes care of that particular person? Do they just send them home or?
No, ma'am, Ms. Sanchez, it's unfortunate that we've had a lot of these situations already happen. Let's say per se somebody is in a school-sponsored activity, we get a phone from them saying we have suspicion that person X is intoxicated. We'll go ahead, we'll have them, the sponsor say, check it out if you think it's possible. And in this certain situation, we actually had somebody go pick them up at that point, and they were positive, and so we went ahead and did whatever was expected with policy.
So who's
Okay.
they? If they're in Albuquerque, for instance.
Any activity, if it's a football game, if they're a sponsor for that activity, if they're on a band trip, and if they're a chaperone for that activity, it would fall under under our jurisdiction at that time.
We've had employees that we've had to send people to go pick up, and the generally the person that goes to get them, if in the event that, in my tenure, we haven't ever had a situation where they were the only one. There was always somebody else there with. That person monitors the kids. It's a handoff. I now have somebody monitoring you. We're on the phone right there trying to figure out what the test looks like. Where do we do it? How do we do it? If it's a student athlete or participant in an extracurricular activity, we usually call the parents and have them come pick them up. Unfortunately, we've got a protocol for that because it's happened.
I've got one and two questions. Real simple ones. On here it says any school-sponsored organizations such as yearbook, newspaper, student government, drama, music, honor society, or any other organization. Those kids are subject to being tested as well?
No, those kids aren't subjected to being tested, not through us, not through athletics. I think they're held to a different standard.
This
through
is
school
the,
district
this
itself.
is the in the presence of part for the drug or alcohol.
Okay.
But we don't random test.
Okay, just, I wanted.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, so in case anybody asks, 'cause, all right. You stated that when a person is in a car accident
Yes.
and they work for the school district.
On school time.
Driving our vehicle.
School function,
Okay,
whatever.
I just wanted a matter of clarification because, okay, I heard you loud and clear and I'm like, okay, because I know of a few that have had some accidents, and how are you notified was the next question.
How are we notified?
It-
Usually,
if they're not on school time.
We can't. If they're,
Okay,
if I
all right.
leave here, I get in an accident, that's totally on.
Right, I got you, understood, but just for a matter of clarification, because you know these things are being recorded.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
All right. No problem. It's just the first reading anyway, right?
Just the first reading.
Wow.
All right.
Hey,
Good information.
thank you.
Thank you.
I learned a lot.
We'll move on to our reports.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, superintendent's updates mailed to y'all Friday morning, give or take about 11-ish. Pretty substantial updates on this one. I do have a hard copy if anybody would like
Can you pass
a
me
hard
one?
copy.
Yes.
I didn't print mine. I usually
I
print
tell you what, I'll.
We're good.
Okay.
it. Is that for everybody?
There is a spot on there, and I'm gonna pull it up on my email real quick.
Ready? That's why I didn't print it.
Apologies. After our recent rain, this will be the one and only that I'm gonna draw attention to. I had the maintenance department start with air quality testing to ensure that we were good across the district. We've received notification from our company that everywhere that we've tested, and we tested some of our hotter spots first, Mountain View University High School, I want to say Sunset, it's in my report, it's highlighted in green, that we have come back within our guidelines for any type of spores or fungal matter that might be. Actually, we had it larger amounts outside than we did inside our buildings. So we're always monitoring that. We're not going to.
And that was every building,
Yes, yes.
every building.
Yeah, we're not going to shy away from that, but, and that's not cheap. I'm not saying that as a weapon, I'm just simply saying that's pretty substantial. It's done by an outside agency, it's not done by us. But we always want to make sure that we're ensuring student safety. So I'm very proud of that. And then, like I said, pretty substantial superintendent's update on that one. And if there's anything moving forward throughout the course of the next few weeks that might jump out at you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Real quick, just an update, if I can. Mr. Braggs, can I get back to that board page real quick? And we can point that out real quick and put that part to bed. If I go to school board, and then I just saw this, there it is, right there. So if you'll notice the green icon, that says RISD Board Outline Comment Form, active only during board meetings. That is our brand-new public comment section for online, active during the meetings, and Mr. Cheney will receive a copy of that, and I will receive a copy as well. So I won't be accused of not passing on any information.
So when you click it, what are they gonna be looking at, a form? I see.
Beautiful.
Okay, perfect.
Like so.
I like
And
that.
thank you to Mr. Braggs and to Mr. Brian Yates for getting that generated. And, we'll see. We'll see what, I don't know that we would have a whole lot tonight, but we'll see what comes out of that. So, and like I said, I stand for anything on our superintendent's report. Okay?
When we get your report, it's not highlighted. When you email them to us, it's
Oh,
not.
shoot.
it-
Okay.
It's not highlighted.
What's not highlighted?
Like he has it on.
Like this right here?
Yeah.
That's my email.
Oh, okay, okay. I didn't see it in mine, so I just,
This is the version.
Oh, I'll double check and make sure.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll double check on my email.
Yeah.
But yeah, that green section was the maintenance update.
Yeah, yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking
Okay,
about.
thank you.
All right, so that moves us on to board communication, new and unfinished business. Did we have, can we, information about the RFPs we sent out? Did I miss that? 'Cause we sent
That
out some
was,
recent-
no, so as of right now, the question that came back was, from last board meeting was, a district sole attorney, like an attorney that just does, work for the district. After, a little bit of discussion, that was where we were going to allow, y'all as a board to visit about this matter in your new business at this time. Now, the RFPs did go out, and I'm not sure of the deadline for that. I can pull that up if you give me about 2 seconds. As far as legal counsel, we did send one to current attorney Ortiz and Moore, and I believe they're out. And as well, I know Walsh Gallegos, which is our sped, that handles most of our sped cases, did get that as well. If you give me just a second, I can pull that up real quick.
Did we have more information that you wanted to discuss specifically, or?
Yeah, as a point of just discussion right now.
Because we're on new business, so we are free to
Yeah.
discuss it now.
So I've done some research over the last the last few weeks. I've talked to about 20 attorneys, and likewise, I've looked at the old reports that I was given from the school. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Sexton, I think in about the last approximately 10 years, we spend approximately $250,000 a year on attorney fees, most of that to Ortiz and Zamora. There it goes. To hire a full-time attorney here, so one, there's no really specialty in the school districts. I have approximately 15 attorneys that I work for. I talk to the city attorney and others. So there's no specialty for Department of Education. However, after about a month or two, I guess there's some certifications you can get if you're an attorney. It costs my organization, and again, the city, approximately $180,000 a year per attorney. So again, I'm gonna advocate, I would like to see the school district for approximately, again, $180,000 to $200,000 at the max, depending on what the starting pay is. We can save ourselves money, and we have we have access to a full-time attorney as opposed to contracting it out anytime that, again, we have questions as a school board member. Talking to some of my buddies up in the Northeast that are on the school board in El Paso, they have access to an attorney because their school districts do. And again, that's something I know that we have the ability to call Ortiz and Zamora if we have questions, but they're not here. That's difficult. If we had an attorney that we could reach out to and again, get counsel from on whatever decisions we're making and counsel with them about our RISD activities, I personally, as a board member, would feel more comfortable having your attorney to reach out to again, at least give us counsel on some of our decisions. It was on board full-time as opposed to having to schedule calls, but that's just me personally.
So when you're saying we can contact our legal counsel, isn't it it's something that we go through you, Mr. Luck, before we can ask attorney questions? Is that understood?
Our attorney is through the board. So our attorney serves the board first. And then also, as I understand it, because we retain the attorney, the superintendent gets access or.
Right, so I guess if the question is, and I'm insinuating, so if I got it wrong, please let me know. When we say we, I would assume that would mean we. Like as far as the district officials, if we needed something,
Yes.
that it would be down the hall versus.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, and I did, I have no bias in any way, shape, form, or fashion in this, but as a function of the board, with the RFP, you know, my team is here to answer questions, but we're just trying to stay into the clarifying question zone. I did look up, the RFP was advertised date of December 4th, 2024, with a return date of January 10th, 2025, 2 p.m. local time. So that's in the process as far as that goes.
Okay.
So-
When was, sorry, Brian,
That's okay.
got a foggy mind tonight. Well, you said December 4th it was put out, and when is it due back?
January 10th. Yes, sir. My apologies.
And Mr. Ashby, you said those numbers, 250,000.
Sure.
Was that just the attorney, or was that the settlements also? Or did you filter out the settlements?
No, good question. So, again, we pay Ortiz and Zamora $250,000 average a year. It's just their cost to us, what they bill the school district. For the last about 10 years, it's about $250,000. To hire a full-time attorney, it would cost, just like it costs the city, just like it costs the federal government per employees with benefits, about $200,000 a year. So it's at a cost benefit to have a full-time attorney here. It would save the school district money, but then the school district, as well as the board, would have full-time access to that individual. Not every time you need something in call, it's, you know, the charge, $250 an hour, or whatever the hourly rate is. And they're easily accessible. If they're working, again, when you get off work, I get off work, we can stop by and again, interact with them and ask questions about decisions that we're making as a board, as opposed to having to schedule a call with Ortiz and Zamora. And I don't even think, correct me if I'm wrong, are they local or are they not local?
They're out of Santa Fe. Santa Fe.
Okay, so they're not even local. And again, as a community member, personally, I have a problem with that. I know it goes as an RFP out, but I would like to, again, have a full-time attorney here at the school district and support local and not, again, outsource that. But that's me personally. Sorry.
If I may, the numbers.
Please, correct me.
So we spent 144,000 last year. I think the highest it was 191,000, so not quite 250,000. And that is our sped attorneys as well as our union, and personnel.
Hey, do you have that with you right now, Mr. Sexton?
I
I thought when
could
we were in your office last
Yes.
month, as I was looking at that, I thought they had charged us around $250K. But if you have that noted, then you're probably accurate.
Yes.
And you're saying that those attorneys don't have to be specialized in any of our,
Except the sped attorneys, because those are
Yeah.
very specialized.
But those are simply certifications that any attorney, so what I was told for school district attorneys, they focus on human resources primarily.
Right.
So any human resources attorney that deals with the human resources or has to deal with the EEOC or other organizations, again, can fit nicely in the school district. It's not hard to overcome like real estate law or, that's what, I'm not an attorney, but I've just talked to about 15 attorneys about this in the last couple of weeks, and they believe it's one of the easiest practices of law is for, again, education, but they're not in it, so.
So
Anecdotal.
I do have the numbers. 2014, 92,000, 2015, 98,000.
I'm way off.
2016, 70,000, 2017, 80,000, 2018, 92,000, 2019, 34,000, 2020, 191,000, 21, $150,000, 2022, $116,000, and then 2023 was $211,000.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sexton. Real quick, why the fluctuation from like 30,000 to 200,000,
Yeah, that
you
would-
know?
I can't speak for,
Okay,
you know, prior to last year.
okay. No, just a thought, again, I would like to have an attorney on hand, but that's just, again, my opinion.
I would say, Mr. Ashby, members of the board, if there's a specific, if there's any kind of a specific dollar amount, or if we need to dig any deeper, if you'll just let us know what you're looking for, we'd be more than happy to provide that type of number as well.
Yes, sir.
How many attorneys in the state of New Mexico practice supposedly this specialty in school law or whatever that we're discussing right now? Is it only the two?
So Mr. Edwards, members of the board, I'm knowing of two that would be general counsel. We go to a law conference in the summer that one of them puts on. And then I do not know of any other, our sped counsel, which would be Wash Gallegos, is regional. They have an office in Albuquerque, they have San Antonio, others in Texas. But as far as any other organizations in New Mexico, I'm not aware of any others.
How many school districts, Brian, do you know that have full-time attorneys here in New Mexico?
I do not know of any right now, but at that same course, I've also not reached out to them to say, how many of y'all have any type of private, what I would say, private legal?
Sure. When you meet with the superintendent?
Yes, sir.
Would you just
I'll beat you
socialize
to
and
it.
ask
Yes,
him,
sir.
like,
I can ask.
who has and the benefits and just?
Or
if you would-
how many districts use the same lawyers we use?
Exactly. That would be a good one too.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How many districts use the same lawyers that we use?
Because I know that
Because I don't like anything from.
we've been with the same attorney for how long now?
I was told 20 years.
20 years plus, right?
I can't speak, that's.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to defer your way as far as through the board, because, you know, the majority of us, I know Ms. Cole came on a little bit before I did, a couple, 2 or 3 years. So I know easily 10 years, give or take, plus probably.
Easily.
So we can get the exact date. That's not a problem.
You know, it's sort of like we're having to change our auditor, correct? Because you know, sometimes change is good. And maybe some new ideas. I would like to see us have our own in-house attorney as well. I'm just gonna sit there, and I'm gonna put it out there. Because there's a lot of questions that, I've been on the board for a little bit, and I've seen where, hey, let us get the attorney on the phone. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get the attorney on the phone. And so it concerns me with the fluctuation, like Mr. Ashby said, 200 and how much thousand?
11 in 2023.
Is that the whole total year for that?
That's for,
Wow.
yes, 144,000 in 2024, so.
Okay.
But that includes all active and pending litigation. So the more, the way we're set up now, the more we're actively participating in litigation,
And then a
the
lot
higher
of
that cost is gonna be.
And then when we do litigation, a lot of times we've had to subcontract it out.
We still subcontract it out.
Exactly.
Well, and we receive counsel, and then when we get to anything that requires the board entity to have counsel, that, you have counsel. And then when we, like the couple, 2 or 3 discharge hearings that we've had, that's where that supplemental comes into. So, and I think Mr. Sexton provided a breakdown at one point of the different firms that have been used over the course of the years. So.
Quick question, how much have we paid out in litigation, not to the attorneys, but to parties for wrongdoing in the last 2-3 years roughly?
I think the only one that I was aware of is,
We're gonna have to get that one looked up first. Just,
Is that in the 5-digit, 6-digit, just
oh,
the
no,
best
sir.
of your estimate?
Not that I'm aware of.
Like 14.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
not significant?
No.
Okay.
Now, I say that a second ago, man, this sounds like, and that's why we're trying to stay out of as much of this as possible, because this is y'all's decision.
Sure.
In the event that we run into a discharge hearing, even if we have our own person on site, we would still require an additional person, because they can't serve both.
Groups.
They can't be in both, wear both hats. So I'm just, for transparency purposes, I felt like I wanted to make sure that we throw that out there. And again, we're trying really hard to stay back out of that.
When we need translators, does that come out of that particular budget, or is it something different from another?
No, ma'am, I don't believe so. I think that was an operational expense for us
Okay.
on that one.
Is this something you want on, to put on the agenda to formalize, or are we still just having discussions?
Just discussions.
Okay.
I want to, and I'll get with Superintendent Luck, I'll get with you and Mr. Sexton, or again, just doing a little bit more research, or I will do a little bit more research on RISD specifically, everything from like, have we ever been wronged in construction that cost us money out of pocket? Again, just look at where potentially an attorney, and again, I want your opinion, because I think primarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, the school districts with attorney, they serve the superintendent and the school district and the board as well. And that's what, again, so it would be beneficial to you, I think, potentially, if you think so. But we can have some discussions offline and just pick your brain if you think it would be beneficial to you. Everything from policy review to reviewing contracts that the city, or excuse me, that the school district gets involved with, to construction and, anyway, sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Sick and I have a foggy brain today, so my apologies. But
Understood.
we'll one off this week, I'll see what your
Awesome.
schedule is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You're making fun of me, Ryan.
Nope. All right, any other new or unfinished business
Let me see.
that we can discuss?
I'd like to just, it's normal if we're getting ready to adjourn. I'd just like to wish, our staff a safe, holiday season. I'd like to, we always talk about the negative, but not the positive. We've lost a lot of good people over this past year. And for those that are sick and destitute, because we have those people in our district, I just want to wish them a good holiday and hope everybody is safe during this holiday season. And, we'll be coming into a new year, and hopefully we'll all be here. And I think we do good work. I'm real satisfied with the makeup of our board, because we don't always have to see eye to eye, but there's a certain respect that I don't feel was here 10 years ago when I got here. And we are being stewards of the people that we do represent. And that's one thing I'll say. We're all different. We come from all different backgrounds. But I just want everybody to have a good year. And I think we do great. I think we do, I'm going to say great work, but there's always room for improvement. And, I heard Brian say, we've got some of the best in the world. But we have our faults, and we have to recognize those faults. But I just want everybody to have a safe holiday season, and may everybody be blessed, And maybe I'll get in trouble because I use the word blessed.
No. Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
But that's all I have to put out there.
All right.
Just a reminder about upcoming School Board Association Conference that we have here pretty soon. I think I can assure them that, all of us as board members, that it's going to be informative and engaging. I want to see, I think it's a great opportunity to learn and grow together as a board. That's what I want to say. I appreciate your time and your commitment.
We'll also get an opportunity to, not only is there great training provided for multiple days, but we'll also have our delegate assembly where we'll elect new state leaders. We had that email come out for the
Support.
gentleman wanting to run as assistant was it vice, whatever. There's an email advertisement for the
His
guy who's
support.
running to support him. We'll get a chance to elect our leaders as part of the State School Board Association to represent us. So it's if you can't make the whole meeting, there are things to attend that we should be attending. To have our voice, because if we don't show up, we don't get our voice, so this is where we show up to have our voice. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Edwards,
Second.
second made by
I
Mr.
wasn't gonna
French.
second it, I was gonna keep everybody here.
Oh, can I get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 Here.
Second, Ryan French. Meeting